Okay, let's talk about immigration, because it's crazy to me that we are not vaccinating. It is not a mandatory vaccination for Afghan refugees. Okay. Nor is it a mandatory vaccination for folks crossing our southern border illegally. And the Biden administration got such flack for that after its executive order saying all of us have got to get it, whether we want to get it or not, or get fired, that they said, okay, well, we're going to do something at the southern border. We are planning to begin vaccinating border crossers as they await processing. They're planning. It's not happening. In fact, right now we check, there's no requirement that immigrants caught illegally crossing into the country be vaccinated. Not even those who are allowed to remain to pursue asylum. We're not requiring it. And so you tell me how people are supposed to feel about the fact that they might get fired if they don't get it, but we're letting in August, 200,000 people came into the country illegally, outmatched only by the month prior where it was 200,006. Mm-hmm. These are records that we're setting in the arrest at the border, 21-year high. No one's covering it in the media. So the border's a sieve, and we're not requiring vaccinations of anybody. And we're supposed to look at this administration and say, okay, I will willingly take this vaccine or lose my job because, I trust you.
One thing about the border being a sieve is that I think it's not. The reason why you have 200,000 arrests or 200,000 people and you have a lot of arrests is that legal immigration has been choked off in this country. It was choked off during the Trump administration, and Biden hasn't done a whole lot to change. We're not accepting, generally speaking, refugees. The Afghan refugees are an exception to that rule. We're at 40-year lows in accepting people. And granted, COVID's hard. COVID makes it a difficult question, but it hasn't really changed. So when you don't have a legal stance, we once did a thing in Reason. Reasons of pro-immigration, generally speaking. When I was editor of the magazine, we had a flow chart designed of how you go through the proper legal channels to get in the country and how long it takes on average. And the headline I put on it was "Get in line now, stay out." If you wanted to be a nurse from the Philippines to get in legally, it would take 18 years. Because back in the day, it's probably different now. But so generally speaking, you're going to have more illegal crossings when the legal option has been choked off. Other thing about the mandatory vaccines on people, I don't like mandatory vaccines on people as a starting point. So I think it
Same,
more,
but goose and gander.
The goose and gander point is important. That's why I don't want the president of the United States to use OSHA to make people get vaccinated. It's not really good for social peace in general. It's not good for people who have their own reasons. They want to control their own body. They might be scared that their 13-year-old kid, will get myocarditis if he's a boy and gets the vaccine, which is it's a low risk, but it's out there, it exists. And yet we're having the LA Unified School District and the Culver City School District make vaccines mandatory for 12-year-olds now.
Look, and we talk about this in the context of schools. And if you look at the numbers, as Matt has pointed out pretty frequently on our podcast, and I think in print pieces too, that it is responding to a phantom problem in a lot of ways. And in this case, it is not. And people tend not to pay attention to this. Just look at what's happening right now with Afghan refugees, which I'm happy that a lot of people got out, not as many as should have gotten out, particularly people who work with the U.S. government. But I think there's 100,000 people right now that are on various military bases, some in the U.S., some not in the U.S. There has been a measles outbreak, which is kind of underreported, the fact that there was a measles outbreak amongst Afghan refugees. So it's not COVID. It's also very bad. And it shows you, when you house people in conditions like this, which is necessary for the volume of people, that this is kind of crazy. And I think that if another administration was doing this, you would be hearing a lot more about it. And to the point about people coming across the border is that, there's the legal immigration's been choked off, but what we do with people who are detained. And I was down at the border in January, and it was astonishing. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And the border patrol people I talked to and the Texas Rangers, they've never seen anything like it either. And they detain a lot of people. They have an incredibly sophisticated surveillance network, and they pick all these people up. A lot of the people expect to be picked up, but they don't expect to be sent back to Central America. They don't expect to be, okay, time to go. We're not processing you, and we're not going to house you. So it is a broken system almost every way. It has gotten more broken And whether or not you support, a more liberal immigration policy or a more conservative one, we cannot ignore the fact that this administration and the previous administration have had a completely cockamamie immigration policy that should not be ignored.